Village in Motion. It is Tuesday, April 17th. I'm Clint Lambert. I'm the host today of Village in Motion, and it is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning Christine Piracci, who is the Assistant Administrator at Garden Ridge, and we're going to be talking about all things about Garden Ridge this morning. Christine, it is so good to have you with us again.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. You're here because your boss suddenly had another appointment, right, that he didn't know about. George had something to do.
Well, our chief medical director came, so Dr. Narrett is here.
Narrett. And he's from corporate, right?
He is, yeah.
Okay.
He's been with the company over 20 years, and he joined us at our administration meeting this morning, and the two of them decided to spend some time this morning. So I made my way over, and I'm happy to spend the morning with you.
Oh, great. Well, we're glad you had the opportunity to come.
Thank you.
What's happening in Garden Ridge? What are some of the things that you're involved in, things that residents could expect, things that are happening overall?
Garden Ridge is booming with initiatives right now. Namely, we are just finished with our PCA training, which is person-centered approach, otherwise known as person-centered care, and it's an initiative and a philosophy and a methodology in how we care for our residents. So all of our staff in Garden Ridge, every single one of them now, has gone through training to look at residents in a different way, the way that we probably should have been looking at them all along. So for example, I know you, I know your background, I've gotten to know a bit about your career, we've had a lovely conversation in the last few minutes. I know that your wife generally picks out your ties. Today she didn't. You know, I got to know you.
I don't have a towel.
Right. So I've gotten to know some things about you growing up in Florida, and about the work that your dad did and growing up on a farm, and how you transitioned into this amazing professional career. And so person-centered care is just that. It's getting to know our residents as people first, as partners, and from that experience we can have better relationships in the care exchange. So if I need to provide care for you, isn't it so nice that we know a little bit about each other? You know about my children, my history, I know about you. We can expand upon those conversations, and through that, the care experience is really a caring experience, and not nearly as much as of a time where we get dressed, we shower, we take our medicine, we eat our breakfast, we use the restroom. Instead, it's a home-like experience.
And so, as we would say in mental health, it's really a therapeutic relationship.
Absolutely.
That you've developed that relationship and you trust one another in regards to that relationship and what you've learned. And then you, as a nurse or an aide, you do what with that information?
So what happens is the managers, be it the nurse manager or the assisted living manager, independently and then together, gather all of this wonderful, rich information from the resident, from the family, from peers, and we develop what used to be called a care plan. We developed this giant care plan, and it's called a holistic assessment, and it's a soup to nuts documented journey about Christine Piracci, who she is, where she grew up, what her faith is, what's important to her, all the way down to I like 3 spoonfuls of honey in my tea and not sugar. So all of that is included in this care plan, and then the nursing assistant or the nurse or the medication aide reads that. They're responsible for reading your autobiography and learning about you, and then having those caring exchanges throughout the course of your day.
And then do you then, with all that information and everyone involved, do you then build a common goals, mutual goals between you and the patient, things to achieve and ways to measure those?
Yeah, I can say that the common goal is health and wellness, happiness. We want the residents to feel like they're living at home and receiving care at home. They're not living in an institution. They're not living in a nursing home. They're not living in a skilled center, but rather they're living at home, and somebody is providing that friendly, warm, knowledgeable expertise in addition to providing all of your basic daily needs as well. It's a mind switch and a philosophy switch away from institutional medical model to a social home-like model. So the same care occurs, it's the approach.
So rather than just following doctor's orders.
Right. We always follow the doctor's orders for sure.
Okay.
That's certainly a part of it. The doctor might prescribe your meds 3 times a day or might prescribe a certain treatment. But it's a whole lot holistic and familiar to come on in. And while you and I are talking about life growing up or your wife who picks out better clothes than you do, I'm joking. We do that. I'm applying your treatment,
Right.
or it's an exchange at home. It's not when you're in a hospital or an acute care setting and the door opens and
Right.
somebody is there with your medication. Instead, it's a knock, it's a wait, it's another knock. Clint, are you in? Or can I come in for a moment? And now we come in and we have this lovely experience together.
Very nice.
Who wouldn't want that,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It surprises me that hasn't always been the industry
Yeah.
philosophy, but we're progressing and moving again. It's
Right.
still, the medical piece is important, but the social, the human, the holistic, faith, person-centered.
Right.
Much better that I know you as a person than
Right.
as a patient.
Yeah, and I'm not just the arm or the leg or.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which used to just irritate me beyond belief in regards to that in healthcare, that rather than talking about the individual and all the things about the individual, we talked about the organ or the injury as opposed to the person.
Yeah,
And
that's
now-
person-centered care.
So now it's about the person.
Yeah,
Very
absolutely.
good. So Garden Ridge is already, all 300 staff now are educated about that?
They sure are, yeah.
Right.
There's a couple that have not been because they're out on medical leave or something, but when they come back, they're required to complete that training, and it's a full day training. This past Saturday, we had 17 staff members in a classroom becoming educated. So
Wonderful.
we're done just about through the entire workforce, and we're excited. And so now it's, we don't want that education to die. We need to live it and breathe it, and it's up to the managers, who I always say to my staff, you run your own business there, drive it. Make sure that person-centered care is living, breathing, and that you're modeling it.
You mentioned your managers, and you're the assistant administrator.
Yes.
Whom all do you have under you? Would you just kind of run through who
Sure.
you are responsible for and who's taking care of the individuals who are there?
Sure. We have what's called direct reports and then indirect reports.
Okay.
So George is the administrator, I'm the assistant administrator, we have a director of nursing, assistant directors of nursing, and so on. George and I have, while we're both responsible for everybody, we've split up the direct reports for reporting structure. So I have all of assisted living. I have Charlotte and Emily are both assisted living managers.
Okay.
I have Devana, who's our memory care manager. I have Renee Budd, who is our programming manager. And then I have both of our schedulers, Tony and Tasha, who schedule all the nursing staff for skilled nursing and assisted living.
Okay. You mentioned the assisted living and cognitive care.
Yeah.
Where are those located? I'm not sure everybody knows where they're located within Garden Ridge.
So right within Garden Ridge, we have different levels of care. We have, if you live in independent living, you go to the hospital and you need to come back and receive some care before you're ready to go home. We have that level of care. That's called subacute care or skilled nursing care. Then we have long-term care, those residents who permanently live on our neighborhood that receive 24-hour nursing. And then we have assisted living and we have memory care.
Okay.
So memory care is currently at EV3, and then assisted living is on 3 levels throughout Garden Ridge. So in the new build that's coming down the road, the Dogwood Commons,
Right.
those floors will change a bit, but we currently have a little bit more than 100 assisted living beds and more than 40 memory care beds, full and occupied.
Okay. And with Dogwood Commons, I understand there's going to be like 26 more assisted living.
I think it's 17. I
17?
think even though we are building and doing a massive expansion
Right.
and building a new building, we will just have 17, and I could be wrong
No,
here or there.
no.
We have 17 new beds.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
good. Very. Speaking of Dogwood Commons, construction's almost over, right?
Yes, it should be over. We're hoping in June.
Okay.
We're anticipating the completion of the new build in June, and then residents being able to move into the new building sometime about September. Between June and September, there's a period where we need to go through licensure with the state and certifications and so on. So we give ourselves a few months for that.
Which means that the state then approves the fact of that being a facility for particular care?
Yeah, well, we're licensed already for it, but we need to, anytime you do a new build, you have to have new officials come on in, make sure from a fire perspective, a construction perspective, we've gotten all the bells and whistles, all the clearances are done.
Okay, very good.
We're looking forward to it.
Sounds like it. And no more water issues?
I sure hope so. We certainly did have some water issue yesterday in our basement. So the cleanup was quick and responsive, and we had water issues last week as well. While sprinklers were being installed, there was an area of opportunity that was not glued. And so water came through, and it did come down through 3 floors, and so we're remediating that.
But no damage to any patients' facilities or anything?
No residents were directly impacted. Nothing entered their personal rooms or their personal belongings. It was a good amount of water behind the walls, behind the new construction walls, and then some water did creep underneath the floorboards into a dining room and a little bit of carpeting area, and then one neighborhood on Evergreen 1, which is assisted living, did sustain the most impact, but we're very aggressive in making sure that we leave no stone unturned. So we've taken out the entire ceiling. We'll be pulling back some more floorboards.
Wonderful.
We had a flood remediation crew in same day, and so now we're looking at putting the ceilings back and getting things back to normal.
So George got his sponge out yesterday and dealt with the
He did.
the basement?
He happened to be here yesterday morning. We are in survey preparation, meaning the state surveyors are going to come and inspect skilled nursing, and so we're sharing rounds. There's a crew of us who come in at 7 and round from 9 to get ready, and thank goodness he was here, because that's when he found out there was a flood in the basement, and he was able to roll up his sleeves and really help out the team. And he did that at his own home yesterday morning as well. He had water at home, he came to work, and he had water again.
The rain didn't do us anybody any favors.
Poor guy, yeah. But he still looked the part all day. He had a business jacket on and nice slacks. You would have never known he was swimming in water.
Exactly. You guys are always busy. What can we as residents do to assist you? What would really help for residents to do?
Well, there's committees. There's a volunteer committee. We're having that luncheon today to thank them for coming on over. I always think that volunteers are just really one of our God's gifts to be able to spend time, one-on-one time with the residents who need it and maybe don't have as much visitors, as many visitors as others. So that's a great thing. I'm very impressed. There's 2 ladies who work on a health services committee, Barbara and Peggy, who are ambassadors for Garden Ridge, and they're there all the time. They attend our functions, they see what's going on, they're such strong advocates, and they're real supporters of what goes on.
Barbara is the chairman of the health services committee, Barbara Hawkins, and Peggy Patterson is the council liaison to the health services committee, and so people could join the health services committee through the council.
I would imagine so. I'm attending their meeting today. I really enjoy. I get so much satisfaction hearing and seeing their involvement. They're subject matter experts as well. So it takes a village, and we've got quite a community over in Garden Ridge.
It really does. Yeah, and with it taking a community, taking a village, we're involved with helping people transition over from independent living to Garden Ridge, right?
Yes, absolutely. There's another group, another ambassadors group led by Lynn Keefe, and she'll be recognized today and her team at our volunteer luncheon. And
Lynn O'Connor.
Oh, Lynn O'Connor. Lynn's our director of general services. Right. Lynn O'Connor, thank you. So she'll be there today, and she leads a team of ambassadors who are friends to those who are transitioning. And, you know, do you need that clock moved higher? And your TV seems a little bit fuzzy, or, you know, what else can we do? Those little details that matter so much when you're moving, and when you're moving, it's also overwhelming. So we're indebted to her group who does that.
Is there anything residents can do to facilitate that transition? I mean, in getting that help or helping people move them over?
I think debunking the myths is a big piece of it. You know, who wants to move to the other side? Who wants to go to the last building on the block? You know,
Right.
there's all sorts of myths that this is the place you go as your final resting stop, and people are afraid of that. And
Right.
I would be too, I
Right.
get that. But when you look at it from a caring perspective, we're here providing care. You're needing the help anyway.
Yes.
Come on over, there's great things happening. The staff is committed to this philosophy. They're committed to their residents. They love their residents. They're fierce advocates for their residents. You get 3 meals a day. You get your housekeeping included. It's like a cruise ship. There's
Right.
parties and programs going on all day long. A group just left a little while ago for a restaurant today. They went to see the Cherry Blossom Festival last week in DC. I haven't seen it yet. They went to the museums in DC the week before. There's so much going on there. So if you have peers or friends or residents who might need another level of care, you don't have to lose that person-centered approach. In fact, we ensure it. That's my job and Georgia's job and our Director of Nursing's job to make sure.
Because we would go from independent living to assisted living, right?
Maybe.
Okay.
I think the route is different for everybody.
Okay.
Sometimes folks stay a very, very long time in independent living. They supplement with aides and aides and aides for the aid. You know, they're
Right.
doing this 24-hour care. And then there may come a point where they've bypassed the services of assisted living and may need that next level of care.
Okay.
So the care plan for everybody is a bit different, but talk to your resident care coordinators, the social workers, talk to folks here. Don't be afraid to reach out. There may be something that we can do to really support you.
What is assisted living really? What do you guys do for assisted living?
Well, you can come on into assisted living, and everybody who lives there has a different experience as well, because if we're doing a good job at person-centered care and developing that great care plan, my care should look very different than your care because we're 2 individualized people. So the approach is very personalized. But from the basics, you're moving into a new neighborhood. It's definitely a neighborhood, and they all have their own feel. And, you know, like I said, your housekeeping is provided, 3 meals a day is provided, your medication. You don't have to worry about, did I take it, didn't I take it? Your kids don't have to be calling you all the time, did you take your medicine today? Instead, you know, there is a medication aide who's going to provide your medicine all day.
Okay.
If you can still take your medicine, by all means, we won't have to do that. But if you need that routine and that structure, we'll certainly do that. There's a nurse on site, so if anything's going wrong, we can help you catch things quicker than say if you're living privately at home and you're just not feeling well and nobody's really noticing. When you live with folks in a neighborhood, you start to notice, hey, Clint's not looking like himself today. Something's a little bit different. So our nursing staff can get in there and respond quickly.
Right. Speaking of medications, and you hand out medications, you follow the orders in regards to medications. If there is a individual who's returned military or dependent of military, what happens with their medications? Because they can't go get them for Fort Belvoir or Fort Meade or whatever.
Yeah.
Are they able to utilize military medications, or do they have to use private?
We do everything we can to utilize the existing resources that you have.
Okay.
So from the time you're moving in, there's a move-in coordinator, there's a nurse manager, an assisted living manager or social worker, and they're looking at whatever your resources are. So certainly, you know, we want to be able to take advantage of any federal or government benefit that you have. That's certainly. We may have to do things a little bit differently on our end, but that's our job to make it work.
So you would work with the individual?
We work with everybody, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
What is the criteria from going from assisted living to skilled nursing?
Again, it's different for everybody. There's no Chinese menu that is column A and column B. It's just not quite as black and white. When we find that somebody, we want folks to be able to stay in their home as long as possible, but if they have skilled nursing needs, if they have a nursing need that requires supervision by a nurse 24/7, then that's when you go to skilled nursing.
Okay.
Skilled nursing is just that, 24/7 nursing. In assisted living, it's not 24/7 nursing. We may have nurses on 24/7, but the model is that you get your, how do I say it? The model is that you live there, you get your needs met if you need assistance bathing, if you need assistance getting dressed, you need assistance picking out your clothes in the morning, you need medication reminders, things like that. But when you've reached a higher level of need and you need somebody monitoring blood pressures consistently, or you're a diabetic and it requires very serious monitoring beyond, then we look at that and see, according to Virginia regulations, can we still keep you in an assisted living environment? Or are we required, or are you even best served to have that 24-hour nursing?
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that assisted living really is just assisted living. I mean, it's not extensive in regards to care provided.
You can get extensive care, physical care provided in assisted living. If you need extensive medical care, however, you may be more appropriate for skilled nursing. But certainly there are residents in assisted living who might need complete assistance with dressing, or complete assistance, you know, a shower, scrubbing from back to feet, that sort of thing. Or you might have another resident who just needs you to turn the shower on and make sure they get in safely and don't fall. So there's a wide spectrum in assisted living for the types of care that we can provide. It really comes down to state regulations, certain criteria. If there are multiple openings, pressure ulcers and so on, that require a higher level of care, then we are forced to move to that next level, which is not a bad thing, because we want you to get the nursing observation. Very different than a certified nursing assistant, to have an LPN or an RN looking at you and being available 24/7.
So that then explains why some people that are in assisted living also have an aid that they are paying in addition, right?
Some people prefer that. Some people want to have their own aid for X amount of time, and they don't want to have to wait to press the call bell and wait a few minutes. Or financially, they're able to afford that, and they want somebody right there with them. That's okay too. If that means that you could stay in an environment like assisted living and enjoy all those wonderful benefits, so be it. We're not going to tell you that you can't.
Okay. So it's really up to the individual of whether they want additional individuals providing care for them when they're in assisted living, then, as opposed to just the individuals that Green Spring has?
Nobody has to have an aid in assisted living. We provide all of that. And when we do that assessment, we're already determining pretty much how many hours of aid time we anticipate. It's part of our package levels. So both of us could move into assisted living and never have to get an aid. The staff would provide it. But if it's your preference and you have the finances to do that, or you've always had this woman care for you for years, or the family feels real strongly about that companion, that's perfectly okay too. This is your life, your home. We're here to make it work.
Okay. Speaking of families.
Yes.
Are there any restrictions at all about families coming in, hours, times, anything along this way?
No visitation hours whatsoever. This is your home. Bring in your loved ones. The only thing that we ask and expect is that you recognize it's other people's home as well. So.
Okay. What about children?
Children are welcome. Children are a breath of fresh air. We love them. We see children, we see pets, we see families bringing their beloved dog. It provides such a beautiful environment.
So you can bring your puppy with you?
You can bring your puppy with you.
All right.
Yeah. Residents can have animals in their apartments as long as they can take care of them.
Okay.
Sometimes they can't. Sometimes they could, and then things have changed, and now they can't take care of their animal. We're not going to ask you to get rid of your favorite animal. There might be another program that we could bring in that will feed your animal a couple times a day, walk him or her 3 times a day. Again, it's our job as good social workers to put that program in place to make this work for you.
You mentioned social work. I have to ask this question.
Yes.
Your background, I think, is social work, right?
Yes. Yes.
How many social workers do you have in Garden Ridge? Are you it?
Well, I don't work as a social worker in Garden Ridge. I do have a master's in social work and spent a number of years in social work, and it's something that you can never take away. It speaks to this person-centered care model so importantly. So in assisted living, the preference is that the assisted living manager be a social worker so that they can bring that same philosophy. Emily is a social worker. Charlotte's not. She's a nurse. But gosh, I tell her every day, you are a social worker. You're a great nurse, but there's no two ways about it. You're a social worker.
Well, nurses learn how to be social workers.
Yeah, and social workers try to make nurses become social workers. So Emily and Charlotte deliver that social model perspective, and then in skilled nursing, we have two social workers, Amanda and Melissa, one that works for the long-term care residents and the other that manages the needs of those who are here temporarily on a subacute basis.
Okay. So you've got a full staff.
I forgot one.
What?
Our memory care manager,
yes,
Devana, is actually an MSW social worker as well.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
And we've got to talk about memory care. And in memory care, we have one unit for memory care?
Yes, our residents are on Evergreen 3.
Okay. And that's a locked unit?
We don't call it a
restricted?
locked unit. Locked unit would be that old model, right? But we have a secure neighborhood.
Okay.
So if residents needed to remain on the neighborhood safely, and they were somebody who explores the neighborhood and become a risk to themselves, they might wear what's called a roam alert bracelet, a little bracelet that makes sure that the doors are secure unless you enter in a secure passcode.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but there's no locks, there's no big doors. Some places have that,
Right.
not here. It's not an Erickson model at all.
And again, that's open to families and everything, right?
The neighborhood?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. The families are visiting all the time, and we
Right.
want them to. That's great.
Very, very good. Well, Christine, this has been wonderful. I think you have shared an awful lot of information with us about Garden Ridge, and I hope everybody really appreciates and understands, and that they go over and take a tour
I hope so too.
and
Please
get
do.
involved, right?
Send them our way, yeah.
Yeah. And, it's the thing about volunteerism. Get involved, get on
Then you
committees.
really learn.
Right.
Yeah.
What's going on.
You see the beauty in the environment.
Very good. Well, we look forward to you coming back and giving us more good news, okay?
Thank you.